Looking to launch your cannabis business in Minnesota? The license application may be in, but the real work is just beginning, and you don't have to navigate it alone. Jen Riza and her team at North Star Cannabis Consulting offer expert guidance on the next steps in the licensing process and how to build a successful and compliant business. Start with their free industry newsletter, then get strategic support tailored to your goals. Get professional guidance from a team that knows Minnesota's cannabis landscape inside and out. Contact North Star Cannabis Consulting today at northstarcannabisconsulting.com.
Keeping track of your grow doesn't have to be a hassle. Meet Plant Track. That's PLNTRK, a tool built by Minnesota growers for growers like you. Track every stage of your plant with intuitive progress bars for each phase. Stay on top of your grow with text reminders for watering, feeding, and photos. And when it's time to log data, it couldn't be easier. Just scan a QR code or tap an NFC tag to instantly access your plant's details and updates. You can even log your interactions for one or all your plants in just seconds. Ask detailed questions with the AI chat powered by your plant's data and get the help that you need when you need it. It's free for up to 8 plants. Go to www.plntrk.com now and start tracking your grow. Are you a social equity applicant trying to save money on LED grow lights? Then here's some good news for you. You could get up to 75% off your lighting project, covered entirely by rebates, when you team up with a local nonprofit, Center for Energy and Environment. Since 2000, CEE has provided free energy consulting to Xcel Energy customers throughout Minnesota. Their team of lighting experts will help you get the highest rebates possible and take care of the paperwork so you don't have to. Starting a grow operation can be overwhelming, so take advantage of this free support from CEE. Go to mncee.org/GrowLED to sign up for your free consultation and find out how much you can save with lighting rebates. Again, that's mncee.org/GrowLED. Go get signed up today.
It's about time we got some ridiculous rules in Minnesota because everything has been the opposite of ridiculous.
It's just made perfect sense.
Take it away.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by Steve and Jordan. Howdy, y'all.
Hey, man.
Another week back.
Jordan's wearing shorts.
We are rocking the old 7-inch inseam today.
Sandals.
It feels more like a 5-inch inseam with how fat I've gotten.
I love your outfit today. I was enjoying the warm weather this week. Definitely had a button-up T-shirt on at one point.
I feel like somebody's Cuban uncle.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of standing near the grill, never actually grilling, but just like near the grill with a Corona.
You're our Tony O. You know,
I'll take Tony. I'll take Tony.
Tony O.
Tony O of the show right now.
Cuban sandwiches from Tony O at the Target Field baseball game.
Brought to you by
baseball. Yeah. No, the Twins have won like 11 games in a row.
And we're still 4 games back.
Well, you know. Hey, I hear the Frost are doing things.
The Frost ripping and roaring.
What a week. Yeah, I was going to save it for my high note, but let's just talk about it now.
Last time we recorded, they were starting the series.
Yeah, they were just on the cusp of coming in. We are now on the other side of, we're going to the finals again.
What? 2 years in a row?
Dude,
yeah.
Taylor Heisey is goated.
So good. So good.
Incredible. Like, that's a franchise player.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously?
Yeah. I love that, Minnesota for the longest time has just not had good sports. That's, fun. Definitely. I loved going to Wild games.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they were going to win the cup, and that's okay. But now we're the guys that are sort of like the bad guys of the league. Of it's like yet another year of the Frost being in the finals, and I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, we got a note on the door.
Wow, this is a
This is
Northern
exciting.
Lights podcast message.
Marty's looking for his anaconda. Oh, he's
Anaconda.
Oh yeah. Some people posted Anaconda on our YouTube channel last time. They know they get a prize. Should we get Marty his prize?
I think Marty gets a prize.
All right, Marty, we are excited to give you an incredible prize. That prize is a Grove bag with Minnesota flag on it, Minnesota Cannabis College branding, ready to be filled with some Minnesota-grown cannabis.
Yes, that's right. Jordan brought in his very own home grow to gift our fans for the show.
No. We're not gifting the home grow, but you can gift the bag. You can give the bag.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's a day one.
Clarifying, it's not a promotional gift. This is just
this is
just a homie hookup. Wow, this is so good. I love the fans that continue to interact with us online, continue to write in, continue to just share Northern Lights with people they know. It was a surprise to me how many people commented something that we posted just in the final moments of the episode. And thanks for listening all the way to the end. Maybe we'll do it again this episode.
super dope.
Only
Yeah.
one way to find out.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a Sea Vault.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bovida. Shout out to our sponsors. Really, we're getting towards the end of the season, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without some of our sponsors like Natural Harvest, friend of the show, Union Bank and Trust.
Yeah. Shout out North Star.
Yeah.
Shout out our friend Plant Track.
Scott Borcher.
Eco Garden.
Yeah. Oh man, Zoe.
Yeah. Really cool homies helping us to bring the news.
It's really nice. So we're gonna play almost like a game today, in a sense, right? It's not quite. It's a news game.
Exactly. Well, Jordan wraps that up. We'll sort of throw a quick a housekeeping thing at the beginning. For those who commented last time, check your DMs. But for everyone else, we're going to be off next week. It's Memorial Day. We're sort of taking the holiday. We wanted to let you all know that there will not be a new episode in your feed next Tuesday. Maybe we'll be dropping something special. Who knows?
We got some interviews in the tuck we could share.
I think it would be fun to go back and release the episode from right after the bill was signed, and you get to hear us like play the celebration song, like so excited. I'm sure we sound like 4 years younger, just like we're so stoked. Legal cannabis is here. And now we're like the old early men that have come out and are just war torn,
cynical 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we should memorialize that feeling that we had, because in some ways that feeling has to, that flame still needs to live inside of us.
Absolutely. And we'll continue to carry on whatever legalization looks like. But all right, housekeeping out of the way. Should we jump into the news for this week?
Yeah, let's jump into the news. Today is the 9th.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, it's
no.
the 15th.
Today is the 16th. It is May 16th. This morning, so as of recording of this, there was the conference committee that looked at that cannabis omnibus bill. We're going to spend the first half of today's show really looking at what was in that bill, looking at what kind of testimony there was. We'll be reacting to some of it. We'll be reading through that conference committee report and talking about what this could mean for our industry that still sort of has yet to roll out. I remember when the bill passed last year thinking like, all right, this is the last opportunity we have before the industry really starts rolling out, before we have licenses. No way we'll get another bill in to like change up how things are going to happen. And here we are. We got another one changing things up. We've got a big study that came out from Minnesota looking at obstructive sleep apnea and the impacts of cannabis. And then later we got a fun interview with Ghislaine.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really fun. She got her terpenes out on the table and talked a little craft beer, talked a lot of cannabis. That was fun.
We'll have to figure out a time for her to come on Tanner's Chirp Tasting, and we can sort of do the trading of the bottles and smell the jars.
Yeah. It crossed my mind. Yeah, definitely.
There was a funny shout out to Ghislaine. She was leaving. She's like, "Oh, you have to smell this." And I go, that smells like my jar. And we look on the bottom, and it's like, "Oh, wow, we might know similar people." So, what a fun industry to be in.
You would too.
You
would.
I've heard there's only like 6 people in California growing weed. So there's only so many that you can.
There's only 6 major categories of terpenes.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Super categories.
Super categories, yes.
Dun, 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 dun.
But yes, we love Ghislaine, and we'd love to have her back on the show.
Yeah.
I felt like that conversation could have gone for 2 more hours.
Titanic, 3.5.
Just let it go.
2 VHS cassette tapes.
Why have we not released an episode on VHS yet?
Well,
I just feel like it's a media we just haven't touched. Like rappers release cassette tapes.
right.
So where's our VHS tape?
We're going to go straight to just Blu-ray.
Okay.
What if they could rent the cassette tape from the Dabbler Depot? And
There's like a little blockbuster
You
in
go in
back.
like a Mr. Movies, just like, yeah, so if I get it for on Friday, I don't have to pay for it over the weekend?
But you definitely got to go through like the corral doors to get to the back and find the Northern Lights tape. So they're in the back
not
area.
at the Dabbler Depot. They've got it right behind the
Illicit
counter.
content.
Oh my gosh, I love renting videos from the Dabbler Depot, especially Northern Lights podcast episodes.
Yeah.
On VHS.
You're mixing like present day 2025 with like 1995, and it feels really fun to play with.
I still have a VHS tape, and while I haven't watched that specific tape in 15 years, I could go find a VHS player and we could do like a live showing of Lady and the Tramp 2 Scamp's Adventure, but the VHS version. Like, wouldn't that be pretty cool?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
I love how it's Lady and the Tramp, the sequel.
Well, yeah. The first one was fine, but
Is that near and dear to your heart?
Scamp's Adventure?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the best movies.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen
All right, so I'm going to go get the VHS player. We're going to bring it into the Dabbler Depot. We're going to do an event. We can invite people in. Maybe they can do some terp tasting, and they can watch the greatest cinematic film of our modern generation.
on a 16-tube TV.
Yeah, it's got to be real tiny. Real tiny.
That's
Wow.
fun. I was a Lady and the Tramp movie fan as well.
Yeah, it's good. It's maybe part of the reason I'm a vegetarian. I don't know.
Possibly.
Possibly.
It was the noodle scene.
Yeah, I just
Not a big noodle guy now.
not
Big noodle
gluten-free.
guy. Big noodle guy.
What's happening?
All right.
Tanner took me to Disneyland.
Let's jump into today's news. Cassette tapes aside, it was a big day at the legislature, and guys, there's some big changes happening to our cannabis program. What we're gonna do is first play some testimony that was at the legislature today. We're gonna be reacting to some of the things that were said. We'll read through the actual text of the bill, at least some of the high-level things we want to point out, and then we'll just talk about like what comes next. So we're gonna be hearing from 5 different people today, all people that have actually been on the show or talked about on the show before. So not anyone new. We're going to be starting with Layli Fatahi. She is now the owner of Crested River. She was on back a couple months ago when we had our reaction news to OCM's
Canceled lottery?
Yeah. Looking at sort of the next steps forward there. She spoke today a lot about how her hemp business, Crested River, is going to be impacted by the changing of some of these bills. So let's jump into that first clip here.
For small hemp businesses, it's becoming more expensive, more restricted, and more confusing to operate than it is for adult use businesses. We're told that the intent was to ensure a regulated and responsible market, but what's actually happening is for these small businesses, especially those that are operating in the lower potency space, they're facing the highest fees, the most limited operating margins, and the least clear pathways to market stability. While I appreciate that the conference report includes a licensed pathway for low-potency hemp edible wholesalers, the $10,000 license fee is unreasonable and structurally incoherent with the rest of the fee schedule. It's more expensive to operate as a hemp wholesaler than as a meso business, which allows for cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale, and retailing of hemp and adult use products, and includes 15,000 square feet of cultivation. It's not just disproportionate, it's absurd. And it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding in who actually needs this license. It's not just beer and liquor wholesalers, it's small hemp businesses. Many of us serving wellness-focused consumers that don't want to shop in the adult use space, and many of us operating in localities that are functionally banning adult use businesses through zoning and regulation. And for us, hemp isn't the side hustle, it is the actual business.
So a lot to unpack there.
I think she makes a lot of great points.
Yeah. I think we're starting to see the breakdown of hemp and cannabis that we've seen in a lot of other states really fighting for different things. Hemp is really a business that is set up to be sort of more loosey-goosey in how it's run. It's something that's more federally regulated and less of a state-by-state thing.
Yeah.
Minnesota has, of course, been different, where we've had hemp edible regulations for a number of years now. But it's
I can
interesting seeing that divide.
I can be frustrated right now as a CBD user. I'm clearly seeing the influence from whether it be alcohol or liquor distribution, putting their finger on the scale, or at its worst, it's the large multi-state operators within Minnesota that are pushing for challenging. I mean, you're throwing away your bonus at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You're giving your bonus to the state of Minnesota here.
Yeah.
So who can afford to do that?
Yeah. And she's spot on. Like, I've thought maybe there was some hyperbole being used there, but that is actually a $10,000 application fee if you want to be a cannabis wholesaler on the hemp side.
With an annual $10,000.
Yeah. Not to be able to grow or to be able to process or to be able to do any of that, just to be able to sell a product that you bought from someone else.
It is a strong turn away from what has been seen as a win for Minnesota, as an opportunity for tax revenue, an opportunity for breweries, for small businesses like breweries.
Yeah.
This is a slap in the face to what's been happening in the last 3 years with hemp in Minnesota. So what are we throwing away here? Well, we're betting on Vireo and GTI here and the larger liquor companies, which aren't going to have the selection, which a lot of these hemp retailers got into today to say, and the senior citizen aspect of it. I mean, there's so much that got spewed today that I'm really, from a hemp side, it's frustrating. You got to shop online. You got to shop out of state. You're not helping a small business owner if your products aren't available.
Yeah. All right. So she had another little bit of testimony we're going to listen to here. Let's jump ahead to that clip.
For social equity operators, the advantages that were promised have been delayed, diminished, or quietly dismantled. And for local governments, instead of receiving clear guidance and support they need to regulate appropriately, they've been left in a state of either paralysis or overreach, where they're either confused about what they're allowed to do to support the businesses that they want setting up in their jurisdictions, or emboldened to use zoning and ordinances to functionally ban these businesses from their communities while opening municipal dispensaries and selling hemp edibles through municipal liquor stores. And now on top of that, all of these businesses are facing a proposal to increase the tax rate on hemp and cannabis products by 50%.
So yeah, more that she talked about there, beyond just the hemp aspect of, hey, this is something that we wanted to be a different path to regulation. Not no regulation, but just a different level. And now also looking at medical patients that we're hoping to have expanded access that really aren't getting a ton of expanded access beyond just adult use. And the local control of, and we'll talk more about it later, about whether it's confused local officials or malevolent, not great actor local officials.
But what about the SEA point?
Yeah, I think that's such a perfect one, where she mentioned there are these things built into the bill that we're supposed to help social equity applicants. Pre-approval is one. Yes, there were a lot of things that went wrong along the way. Yes, there were lawsuits that prevented things from happening. But I think what we're really seeing here is that a lot of the promises that got this bill passed, that got the community support, are now being sort of just shifted towards, we just want business to be able to continue to function.
Yeah.
I feel for medical patients that are concerned about a lack of access. I don't think the solution is taking the medical companies and giving them more control. We just disagree, and that's okay. But I think what Lady touched on really is clear here is that for social equity applicants, for medical patients, for hemp businesses, for local officials, this just hasn't worked. And so here we are. And she threw in that little bit on the end, which we haven't really talked about yet, but yesterday, so as of recording, so this was Thursday afternoon, it was announced that the Democrats and the Republicans came to a budget agreement, helping to balance out the budget. Yep, good job, shaking their own hands.
$67 billion over 2 years.
Yeah, and part of that money raise was raising the tax on cannabis from 10% to 15%, a 50% raise on the straight tax of cannabis.
Yeah, your $5 cannabis tax goes now to $7.50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to jump to a clip from our friend Josh Wilkins-Simon over at Legacy, where he's talking about this exact issue, and then I want to jump into it a bit more.
speak on a critical issue that I know is not part of this bill, but needs to be discussed. The legislature and governor appear to have cut a deal to raise the cannabis tax by 50%. This new rate of 15% would stack on top of state and local sales tax. This new rate for a customer in Minneapolis would be 24.03%. This would result in Minnesota having one of the highest cannabis taxes in the country, matching California and surpassing New York and Massachusetts. California has a ton of data on how the illicit market is 3 to 4 times the regulated market due to their high tax rate. The Office of Cannabis Management is tasked with eliminating the illicit market, and increasing the Minnesota cannabis tax by 50% will ensure that that never happens. The state of Minnesota is hoping to raise more money from cannabis to balance the budget, but less Minnesotans will buy cannabis from dispensaries, and thus the state will not actually see an increase in revenue.
Bingo.
That was my first thought too.
Yeah. Because I was one of the people that saw, wow, they're raising the tax on cannabis 5%. Man, that's just another reason why I should keep buying cannabis as I have for the past 10 years, which is not through a legal source. And that spot about having a nearly 25% tax rate in the cities is insane. For every $100 that you're spending on cannabis, $25 will be going to local officials or to the state government just for the pleasure of being able to buy that.
It's out of control.
Yeah.
Think about your latte in the morning. Think of how expensive that is right now.
Mm-hmm.
You typically get asked to add a tip, and you typically do. And then you add 15% to your latte.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, wow, I'm paying over $10 for a latte.
Mm-hmm.
There must be a better way to buy coffee.
Yeah. And this is just one of those things that we're going to have people already in a market that's going to be way overpriced, because that's just how early markets are. And like Kayla and I were sort of running the numbers before this, and let's say, there's someone who's selling an ounce for $300, real expensive compared to other established markets, but not unheard of in the early days of legalization. You're now going to be paying, like a 24% tax on that. So you're going to be paying $75 for every ounce just for the pleasure of being able to buy that ounce in the city of Minneapolis.
Wow. It kind of makes you anti-legal market.
Yeah. And that's what I'm really struggling with, is that we, as Josh said, want this to be a program that's about transitioning, about saying we should have never had this in the gray market to begin with. How do we bring this into the legal market efficiently and in a way that supports businesses and consumers? And this is supporting neither businesses nor consumers. It's not supporting safety. And it's, as Josh said, probably going to end up raising less money than if they just left it where it is now, because you're just going to have more people that are continuing to operate in the legacy market. I need just a tiny push to push me towards doing what I've been doing for quite a long time. And 5%, when added up, can be that reason.
And at this time, they are stuck. There is not a budget deal. Before I left for the show, I was hearing that Representative Omar Fateh was not participating in the budget conversation, the dealings that were required. And so there are more serious things happening than cannabis tax within the budget negotiations. However, I see what they did there. And they said, we are going to have X amount of cannabis sales over the next 2 years. But those are false projections if they keep rolling out like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wish I could go back to some of those early Senate documents from when House File 100 first passed on what was their projected income from 2025. Because I know there was something on there. And as of right now, I don't really know what that income is going to be.
The fact checking that could be done on this podcast with respect to the evolution of the market is just wow. So we're way off, and Josh Wilkins-Simon is a great representative for the retailers of Minnesota to speak up and to have the voice heard that Josh has to say this is not going to help business owners.
Yeah. Now, the rest of the testimony we have actually comes from lawmakers themselves. Now, I want to really encourage people to go and listen to the entire hearing. I know sitting in front of a computer for 2 hours isn't super fun, but hey, maybe you're trimming some weed, you need something to have on in the background. It's a great thing to have on in the background. And There was some really powerful testimony from some other advocates that we don't have time for today, but that really helped to clarify why this isn't just about getting stores open and getting products sold to people, but about so many issues before that product even reaches the shelf that have sort of gone unaddressed. But that being said, let's jump ahead to a totally different issue. We've been talking a lot on this podcast about local control, going back to the days of the bill being debated on what should local control from cities and counties really look like. Should they be able to, like Colorado, entirely ban legal cannabis business in their counties, in their jurisdictions? Well, Minnesota opted for no. Instead, they gave them sort of two main objectives, and we're going to hear Representative Jess Hansen in two different clips talk a little bit about that in a way that I think is very pointed. Let's jump towards that.
Cities and counties have had nearly 2 years to develop a retail registration process of their liking. Yet many of them are still scrambling and inconsistent despite a plethora of resources. There's been committees, conferences, direct access to legislators on both sides of the aisle who are subject matter experts, lots of public attention, and more. Others know what the rules are, and they are purposely overreaching, or they're flat out exhibiting prejudice against our industry. And too many, I've heard personally, all but bragging about how they are finding a way to outwit the state and to find their ways around the law. And for me as a cannabis advocate, that's quite ironic because not too long ago, my community and my friends were arrested for doing the same thing.
Yeah, so they're not taking a liking to cannabis.
Yeah. We're getting some, meant very respectfully, a lot of finger pointing at the Capitol of this has gone wrong, but not because of OCM. This is clearly the fault of the cities. And Jess, I think you speak a lot of word to truth, and we're going to play some more of your clip in just a minute here. But I do find it very interesting that we have people at the state pointing towards the city and saying, yeah, you guys are just really dropping the ball. And then we have advocates coming in and going, yeah, the cities just have no idea what you want them to do. And I think I don't think we know exactly whose fault it is. And maybe it doesn't even matter whose fault it is. But I think what's very clear is that we don't have a lot of people in the room trying to solve the problem right now. But we've sure done a good job of identifying it.
That's just crazy.
Is this a result of too many cooks in the kitchen, but unfortunately, like, all of these cooks learned how to cook in like a dive bar? Like, it just seems like a clusterfuck of...
To speak for the cities did not feel included in the negotiations around the bill and bringing the legislation to pass. So the cities felt left out, that the state was just steamrolling them. Mm-hmm. And so they're now playing games or slowing things down. Yeah. And that's not where we're at, as far as I can see it.
Yeah. You go to like a rural county and you say, I want to apply for a cannabis license. They say, oh, that's great. We're just working on our ordinance now. It's going to take us a little bit of time. You can apply for a conditional use permit once we do have the rules in place. It'll let you run your business for like a year. We'll evaluate the rules and sort of see then. And I mean, Jess is spot on in saying that we all knew this was coming for 2 years. Right. This isn't a surprise to anyone. And well, the rules, were just finalized a couple weeks ago.
Hey, but it's been about 2 years. We still have an interim director who seems to think he's the director.
We've got a lot of balls that seem to have been dropped out of the air. That's for sure.
We'll take a quick break and come back with some more video clips.
You got it. We'll be right back. Attention all Minnesota cannabis lovers. Put down your joint, bong, vaporizer, or whatever else you're currently holding while you're listening to your favorite podcast and mark your calendar for the second annual Doobie Dabbler Cannabis Festival, happening September 5th and 6th at Seavers Fall Festival Grounds in Shakopee. This 2-day festival is a cannabis lover's dream, featuring over 100 acres of vendors, artisans, industry pro seminars, live music, food trucks, and the wackiest and wildest activities your stoned imagination can come up with. Doobie Dabbler is the can't-miss cannabis party of the year. Come join thousands of your newest buddies in celebration of the ever-growing Minnesota cannabis culture at Seavers Fall Festival Grounds in Shakopee, September 5th and 6th for the 2025 Doobie Dabbler. Tickets and more available at doobiedabbler.com. Doobie Dabbler, Minnesota's great green get-together. Must be 21 years of age or older to attend. Powered by the teams behind Beer Dabbler, Bear's Joy, and Hunt Atkins. All right, and we're back. So we were talking right before break, testimony from Jess Hansen looking at local control. We do want to throw in one more clip of her testimony where she kept talking about this issue, because I do think she does a really good job of explaining why the cities maybe aren't the best place to be litigating who should be opening cannabis businesses. We'll let you listen.
When we originally embarked on this journey, we did so after we moved past the futile effort to stop legalization. We got past that, and we listened to the local lobbyists that were here, local governments who showed up, commissioners who came to talk to us, and they expressed three main concerns. They did not want us overreaching into their zoning. They did not want us to try to be the ones responsible for age verifications and compliance checks. And I agree with that. The state's far too disconnected to be on the ground in communities. And they wanted to make sure that the state did not place unreasonable burdens on those local governments, because sometimes they just don't have the staff and resources or the expertise to deliver on those things. And while they were demanding that, they also said that they were not confident in the state's ability to be deliberate and thorough enough to meet the high standards that they would hold businesses to themselves if they had the resources and capacity to do so. They expressed that they were not confident that the state could develop adequate resources to communicate with them. So it was very clear to us as legislators that they did not want additional burdens, but simultaneously did not want their local control infringed, and that they were vocally skeptical and sometimes bordering on cynical that the state would do its part to a degree that was up to their standard. That was not an easy task for the legislature to take on, but we did, and we tackled it. And what we did was the state took on as much of the responsibility as possible to lower the burdens on local governments the best we could. We made sure that we put the fewest feasible mandates on these local governments to respect their local control, to zoning, and to do local age verification compliance. And the licensing and regulatory standards were thorough, rigorous, and very transparent in plain language in the law to make sure that we could earn the trust of local governments that we were going to do everything necessary to well vet these programs. But at the end, we left locals with just two core responsibilities: approval of zoning for a new industry and a retail registration process of their liking to conduct and enforce age verification compliance checks. So how is it that with just two responsibilities, we still have cities denying and acting as if it is so complicated to deliver on these things?
And that's, I think, sort of the crux of the issue is, we can disagree about who's responsible for the rollout timeline and everything else. But I think she is spot on in that cities really weren't given a ton to do here. They just had to figure out how to give out licenses and where they wanted businesses. Mm-hmm. They had to figure out if people were selling to minors, how they wanted to check that. That's it. They weren't supposed to decide whether legalization should be occurring or really like what legalization should be looking like. It was where should it be and who should it be.
Mm-hmm. But we've always had our concerns and doubts since, because some cities have been more outwardly against cannabis.
Yeah. And we've now are seeing, as Jess said it a little bit earlier, Representative Hansen, we're seeing cities that are coming forward and saying, yeah, we just don't want cannabis here. So if you want to do it, you have to do it over there. And unfortunately, there's just not any property available over there. So yeah, shoot, guess not in this city. Bummer. Get them next time. And that's just not the intent that the legislature had set up. And then you're getting the other side where we're having cities that are basically creating no regulations, saying, if you want to open business here, come on in. And I really feel as though when we look at what cities are going to have safer enforcement around cannabis, what's going to have more regulated sales versus unregulated sales, it's going to be the one that actually allowed dispensaries to take place.
To hold space.
Yeah, there are cannabis sales happening in every single county in Minnesota, I would say probably today.
Right now.
Yeah, like as we're recording. That's going to keep happening after legalization. Counties just get to decide, do they want that 10 or maybe 15% cannabis tax to apply or not? It's still going to keep happening.
It's just so fear-based.
Yeah. And it's not, I think fear-based is the best way to describe it. It's not based in logic. It's not based around, we have this goal, we're trying to protect kids from this or whatever be it. It's, we're afraid of legalization. And
does that also include an element of control and like status quo maintenance? And
absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a ton to that of, we looked at a situation, we being city officials, that we had no control. We weren't able to decide how cannabis was legalized. And so this is how we're able to seize control, is by saying, not here.
You know, the funny thing about policy that I'm learning is when policy happens and it's passed, it's celebrated. And then it has to be enacted. I mean, the muni thing is really layered. And, you know, it's been discussed in different ways on the show. So the common conversation here is, so that you've got the same group that's going to hand out licenses has the ability to open their own. Mm-hmm. And so that layers it even further, because not only are some of these cities not helping advance cannabis businesses, they themselves have the ability to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would be like if I could decide if other cannabis businesses opened in my own town and I was the only guy who was selling weed there. I'd probably say, nah, I'd prefer if no. And yeah, we're having cities that have not the public interest, but literal business interest at mind.
Okay, it's kind of like when your friend texts you and they're like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Mm-hmm. And you're like, you're not sure what you're doing tonight, and you kind of might already have plans with somebody else, and so you're like trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. You're going to figure out what you're going to do first, and then you're going to get back to your friend.
Oh, yeah.
So they can take a while in just getting back to you because maybe they haven't had time to figure out what they want to do with cannabis yet.
I love that. We've got the city of Edina just trying to figure out, like, are we going to open a dispensary on Friday? Like, I don't know if I want to make plans with this guy yet. But yeah, I think that's spot on. That is a perfect metaphor for that.
And so it's inherently flawed. Mm-hmm. This because human nature will take it, and then stigmatization and prohibition, all these factors at play, and they feel disconnected to the state.
Well, let's hear from someone who really agrees with us. Our good friend, Representative West.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been on the show, talked about a lot before, but he was one of the members on the committee, as he was in the conference committee last year looking at cannabis changes. He has a lot of thoughts, and I'm excited to share those with you here. Let's jump to his clip.
I can't wait.
And my frustration with the current direction that has been set is it's so overly regulated to create what I would argue is a fantasy situation where we're going to be an exclusively craft industry. And that sounds great, but the caution I want to give everybody today is with 1,800 medical micro business applications, it's uncapped license, so we're going to see a whole lot of them attempting to get started. It's going to be incredibly difficult, especially with the speed of this rollout. And a lot of people are going to lose their shirts. So despite the obviously good intentions of my colleagues who push a model that is not particularly friendly to growing a small business, they are going to hurt a lot of people because their businesses are going to fail. They just aren't going to be able to compete in this market. And that is something that we will need to continue to address going forward.
He's saying lose their shirts. And that's an old saying.
Yeah.
And it's really scary to think that some folks that are listening to this podcast right now could be in that category.
Yeah. That's when we do the thing where you look at the camera and we go, no, not you. But no, I think Nolan West is spot on. And he has been one of the few Republicans for years that has been saying, I support legalization. I think we should end the war on drugs. I'm just concerned about how we're doing it. And I remember when he was speaking 2 years ago, and I would listen and I'd go, yeah, he has a couple good points, but I just don't agree with you. And now it's crazy. Listening in on conference committee and going, man, there's a lot of people with some good points. And Nolan West, I think I'm maybe more in your camp than I thought I would be.
Is he back on conference committee?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
And so what he described, what I think really well was, we all like this idea of we want small businesses to be successful. What he called the fantasy of the Minnesota model, I think there's some people that would really disagree with that. And then I think there are others that would sort of look around and go, well, where is it? Like, you're saying that this world will exist, and I do, to this day, still support or hope that it does.
Mm-hmm.
It has been challenging.
Yeah. You know, we were talking to Ghislaine on the interview today, and craft is not necessarily above ground at this rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looking at the testing sample requirements, you know, you're going to have 30 grams of retention samples sitting in your fridge for OCM to show up and check to make sure that it didn't go bad. Imagine your 5x5 tent. You maybe only get an ounce or two from that. Suddenly now half of your grow is just sitting in a fridge for OCM to maybe come and check someday. Tough for craft, but a lot easier if you're growing 15,000 square feet.
Mm.
All right, we got one more clip I want to play today, and then we'll be done with sort of our show and tell of sorts. This is from our friend, Senator Dibble. Senator Scott Dibble has been around since the early days of legalization, not just on the adult use side, but also looking at medical. He was a big advocate in leading for our current medical program and a big advocate for pushing for an expanded medical program, saying what we have now is not good. This wasn't our plan. We actually planned for something much bigger than this. We need to continue to improve. And every year, he's sort of made little minor bits of improvements.
Yeah.
We're going to play a short clip from him, sort of tying a bow on all this.
I did want to respond just very, very quickly. Everyone articulated my views extremely well, particularly Representative West. Everyone knows my focus is on access for patients to the medicine they need to bring relief in the lives, of dignity to the extent possible. And it has been frustrating, even though we have for many, many years now tried to go back and make the product more accessible and more affordable through changes in the registry and, the cost to patients and the types of products that are available. And still, it's too expensive. That is very, very frustrating to me. To those who essentially blocked the various ideas around bringing costs down in the new adult use and combined market because of lack of trust and concern about what that might do to the market and what we want to, our aspirations for the market. I respect those concerns and I've received so much assurance it'll be fine. We've got 5 new applicants into the MedCan market, and if we can gain access to medical products, and or gain access to production of medical products, there'll be more product and more competition, et cetera. I am paying close attention, and if that does not transpire and that does not develop, I am in strong support of the initiative that Senator West is supporting. I already am in strong support of that, but I'm going to be watching to see how things transpire as the new market rolls out, because that is my focus. We cannot leave these children with seizure disorders without the medicine they need. That is unconscionable. I will not accept that in Minnesota. And we've seen the collapse in other states by those who, as we move into adult use, those policymakers in those markets that haven't paid attention to what people need. So that's my focus. All the rest that's in the bill, I think, is good work. And work that to be done. Senator Hansen, or Representative Hansen articulated And Senator Port has agreed to continue to take me to school so that I can understand all the dynamics. I can better understand the issues that were raised at the table today, and we can work on making this whole marketplace better for everyone. So with that, I conclude my comments. Anyone else?
Wow, he said a lot.
Yeah. And I think a good reminder of where this whole conversation started over a decade ago. It wasn't really the push for adult use. It wasn't the comparison to alcohol. It wasn't all of these things that brought medical cannabis into Minnesota. If you go back to the testimony, to the Senate, to the House, all of it, it was getting kids medicine. It was parents coming and crying before lawmakers, saying, my child needs access to this. We can go to Colorado and they can get it. We can go to Oregon, they can get it. Why can't they here in the place that we call home? I think it's a good reminder that as we move towards adult use, yes, we want criminalization to stop. Yes, we want people to be able to buy the products that they enjoy. But medical cannabis is an important thing to continue to keep in the back of our heads. And I'll be very curious, sort of like Senator Dibble, to watch how this rollout impacts the medical cannabis program. Not the two companies, but the program itself. Because is medical cannabis expensive right now? Yeah, it's absorbently expensive. But if you had the money, you could go get access to cannabis today. That's not really what I think true access looks like, but it's access. Will the future hold more access for people that are really in need? I hope so, and I hope that adult use truly leads towards that. But if not, I guess we'll have a Dibble West bill that's coming in and just blowing it all up.
Yeah, it's interesting. The patience that they have is just so different. Dibble's coming in sort of kind of a well-known person around St. Paul, like coming in to oversee this, stepping in to some level.
Yeah.
Saying, I don't know everything. I'm being taken to school by Senator Port sometimes, and that's good. And Mr. West, I hear you, and that, maybe in the future we can talk about it. It's interesting. It's like, yeah, medical. I get, it's the two towers. It's for now, and maybe then it's 7. Tower 7.
I was gonna say, like, this is where we throw in the joke of like, sir, they've applied taxes to a second cannabis industry, and oh my god. No, all right, that seems like a good place to take a break. You guys know more than we do because the legislative session ends on Monday. So by the time you guys hear this episode, this bill has either made its way through and passed, or it hasn't, and more to come on that in the future. But we're gonna leave it there. When we get back, we're gonna talk about a new study out of Minnesota. It'll be a good one.
I love the suspense here. It's Friday. We had Green Machine, Patty Gilk, Mike Golick, Travis Cullen as the closer.
Yeah.
And then, now, the elves will work on this show over the weekend, and then Monday maybe we'll know some news, and then
hopefully
Tuesday the episode comes out, and here we are.
Yep. So hope y'all are enjoying it.
2 weeks from the lottery.
Mm-hmm. We'll be right back. Attention Northern Lights listeners. Whether you're growing cannabis indoors or outdoors, organically or hydroponically, Eco Garden Supply has the tools to help you succeed. From premium organic nutrients to advanced hydro systems, they've got everything you need to cultivate like a pro at home. Head to ecogardensupply.com now or visit them in person at 800 Transfer Road, Suite 3, St. Paul, Minnesota 55114, and elevate your cannabis. Eco Garden Supply, growing supplies for the serious grower. Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. Check out unionbankandtrust.com today. That's unionbankandtrust.com.
Did you know that 70% of businesses fail in the first 10 years? And the number one reason they fail is because they run out of cash. Hi, I'm Dave Woodbeck. I'm the managing partner of Dope CFO. At Dope CFO, we help cannabis business owners beat the odds by providing financial leadership. Yes, we handle bookkeeping, accounting, and taxes, just like any accountant. But as one CEO recently told me, the last thing I need is another accountant. I need a partner who can help me achieve financial success. So take the first step towards financial success. Scan the QR code now to start your free self-assessment.
And we're back. All right, so a lot of talk about the medical cannabis program during testimony this morning. Well, also, we have a medical cannabis program that does research, and we got a new study looking at the impacts of medical cannabis on obstructive sleep apnea. Now, obstructive sleep apnea is one of the conditions that was added back in 2019, if I recall correctly, 2018. So it's been around for a while, and they've been taking data from people that report having symptoms, start using cannabis, and then report their symptoms after on whether medical cannabis is actually beneficial. This is the largest study ever conducted on cannabis and obstructive sleep apnea, and it was
amazing,
paid for by tax dollars. That just happened in the background of our cannabis program. So I actually think this study is really cool. It came out and showed that there is a pretty significant impact that people can have. 39.4%, nearly 4 in 10 patients said that they achieved a 30% reduction in their symptoms for at least 4 months just by using medical cannabis.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We've had people, talk about how cannabis helps me sleep a little bit better. And for people that have a condition where sleeping and staying asleep is challenging, studies show, it's actually really beneficial.
And this is a severe type of sleep disorder.
Yes, this is one where people might have like the CPAP machine.
Yeah.
I have a loved one with obstructive sleep apnea, and that like Darth Vader, the mask that you have to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it can be potentially pretty severe for people. And
right.
By even not just on like the dangerous side, it just leads to significantly less high quality sleep.
Yeah.
And so you have people that are sleeping for 8-10 hours and waking up exhausted because their body wasn't really able to get that sleep they needed. Cannabis could be helpful for that.
No doubt. Huh. And the fact that this gets recognized as a possible solution, the word of mouth that research like this has can open people up to really anything under the lens of cannabis. Could be CBG, could be CBD.
Absolutely. And that's the part that I'm excited for there to be more exploration around. It's like, it's great that medical cannabis is helpful as like a bubble.
Yeah.
But what is it? This can now sort of be that jumping off point that hopefully we have more medical specific research looking at like, not just that it is, but why.
If there would be a county that could pay attention to maybe having less restrictive thoughts around cannabis due to its medical properties, perhaps there would be one in southern Minnesota that could say, maybe I'm being a little hypocritical here in choosing where I want to apply the opportunities around cannabis.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's reminding us that, well, there are concerns around people being able to buy adult use products in insert small town here. We should take very seriously that there are people that do need access to medical cannabis. That's something that's been around for a while in Minnesota, and that's not something that should be concern for local officials, is people getting access to medicine.
Yeah, it's the less glorified aspect of the cannabis industry, which I'm guilty of, lifting up, to some degree, I'll say. But the medical cannabis, the folks that are too poor to afford medicine that they can't get through insurance, that is where the root of this is potentially in access. And so home grow, caregivers, all of that is a great opt-out of the medical cannabis program per se, but, caregiver with the exception.
Yeah.
But when we're seeing results on one side, and we're suppressing it in actuality, we're creating a fantasy story.
Exactly. And it's so, I think, so poetic that it is literally the state of Minnesota's research arm saying yeah, this is really helpful, and we should continue to expand access to this as we have members of that same institutional body doing the exact opposite.
Senator Nelson said today that the 5 milligram stuff is okay. The low dose stuff is okay. Okay. There's thousands of places where kids can get that.
Yep.
So I don't think having dispensaries have access to high potency products is an issue.
No.
Considering it works for sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're continuing to find new ways that cannabis is beneficial to people's lives. Are there, potential harms? Yeah, just like with anything. Try drinking too much water and tell me how that works out for you. I think, cannabis is one of those things that when used correctly, used in moderation, used however people find works best for them, can be really beneficial. And this is just another study showing that the fear around this really isn't well placed.
No. We're not hearing any, but I haven't seen a front page story about cannabis in Minnesota other than the state of the industry not rolling out.
Mm-hmm.
What are we? It's the state. It's got fucking governor's got his hands full, man.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We're at a very interesting place as an industry, as a community, as anything. We sort of stand on that precipice of something's coming.
The pendulum is swinging and everybody is just trying to hold on.
Yep.
Well, thanks to the two of you for being the headline news that people aren't getting from their newspaper. So I appreciate the insight every week. I'd be useless. I'd be just be another camera guy if I didn't have you two.
We appreciate it, Jordan. Before we go to that interview, I wanted to just mention a couple things that are in that conference report that, again, you guys probably know more than we do, but might be in effect because they impact you specifically. Now, I was flipping through. There's a number of different changes people should check out. I think people should really go and read about how that wholesaler license will impact the industry. I think people should learn a little bit more about how the testing rollout will actually look. But, Steve, did you know that low-potency hemp edibles will soon be able to have, per serving, 5 milligrams of THC, along with 100 milligrams of CBD, CBG, CBN, and or CBC?
Yes! That's a big win for our boy Steve.
Yeah.
I heard about this. It was referenced during the discussion this morning. I hadn't heard it for fact until I heard it from you. And it's not fact yet. Technically, things could change by Monday night. I hope they don't. I love that 20-to-1 ratio. They were looking out for me when they put that in. There was definitely a Steve somewhere involved.
They were like, man, is there someone who wants a 20 to 20 to 20 to 20 to 1 ratio can beverage? Yeah, there probably is at least one guy. And it wasn't written in here as the Steve provision, but I want you to know I read that and I went, I know who that's for. And
that's
so,
right. Nothing but Steve.
Yeah, nothing but Steve. Oh, man. Well, I'm excited. If you guys are excited by that conference report passing, put it in the comments below. If you're disappointed that it passed, put that in the comments below. If you're excited that it didn't pass, because we don't know, put that in the comments below too. We just, we love when people are dropping comments on YouTube. It's always fun being able to interact with at least the positive ones.
Yeah.
We delete all the negative ones.
No, we keep them up.
Yeah, no, we
as
do.
A point.
We do. It's historic, archived.
Exactly. Yeah. You can disagree with us, but then I'm going to go on there and I'm going to post a really long reply. And no. Just kidding. All right, we're going to take a short break.
We love our community. It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, and we got some good credits on the Minnesota Trees community. So, shout out Minnesota Trees. We'll give you some credit.
This week, Tanner likes Minnesota Trees.
This week, we'll see. Watch for next week. We'll see. But you can't because we're off next week.
Yeah.
All right. Let's cut this, and we're going to go to that interview. We'll be right back.
Fuck you.
Ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out and get started with the best seeds. Start your growth strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off at MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today.
You know, it's really great.
What?
This. And the reason why I've never been through a terpene tasting kit experience.
Oh, stop. Seriously?
I've been invited many times and I've been holding out.
How have you managed to escape me?
Right? I haven't escaped you. I've brought you into the house and gone to another room because this is Ghislaine Ball, certified Ganjier, and you have been to numerous Canna Connect events, numerous events in general. We've been around each other. We've partnered. We've collaborated. We've done many things together in a short amount of time, less than 2 years. However, I have never done a terpene tasting kit. So we are live on the Northern Lights podcast. Share with me what we have in front of us.
Okay. So, hello.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
We'll get into it, but you said terpene tasting kit first, and so here we are.
Okay, terpene tasting kit first. But I do need to give you I want to give you a little context to because it explains the concept behind it.
Sure.
So we were just talking about craft beer, and which is wonderful because craft beer is one of the analogies that I use pretty consistently.
And we can talk about craft beer.
Oh, we're going to.
It's legal. It's legal in Minnesota
For now, yes.
at all ABVs.
That is, yes. And that's actually, I'm glad that you say ABV, even though it's a titch of a non sequitur. But it talks to proof. So when you think how we purchase something, I come from a world of academia. And some might call me, myself included, a bit of an overthinker. Or I nerd out. I go down rabbit holes. I get really interested in something. And I have another girlfriend of mine. She calls them side quests. So my life has been a series of like side quests that maybe merge into a full-on quest, and then depart or.
We teleport. We teleport. We use the telephone to create side quests.
Yes, that is true.
Right.
So side quests.
We're at one right here.
We're at one right
at the Dabbler
here.
Depot Studios.
Cannabis, for me, certainly started as a side quest a number of years ago. I come to cannabis from academia, and my background is in business, specifically marketing. I used to work at the University of St. Thomas.
Yes.
Actually, we were on campus together. When you were a student, I was working in university relations.
Yes,
So
in the late 2000s.
In the late 2000s, we've shared a campus.
Along with Dr. Clement Dabney, who was also there at the same time.
Stop.
Yes, he was.
All roads lead to Minnesota, man.
That's cool.
We were just laughing about that the other day.
I'm sorry. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Oh my God! And you work in weed?
And when I use cannabis, it comes out sometimes out of the blue. So totally apologize.
I was just like.
So tell me about the terpene tasting kit.
Okay, so I've been in cannabis a long time, so I'm still not comfortable even talking on the phone.
Okay.
So this is I'm a dare generation. I grew up with this like full on stigma of 90 years of prohibition. You didn't smoke weed, like you were gonna die penniless and in the streets.
What was your maiden name?
Oh, my name is Ball.
You've always been. Yeah. The balls don't smoke cannabis, honey.
Well, no, I mean, it was more cultural. People didn't smoke cannabis. They just didn't. Huge drinkers.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
I grew up in New York City in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
It was Cocktail Nation. It was Mad Men.
Absolutely.
People would have the 3 martini lunch was real. And I was a child when it was still happening, but yeah, that's real.
So I mean, good to note that you were a child. However, advertising has influence on children. And a large part of what people rail against with the cannabis industry is we can't advertise this in front of kids.
Oh, well,
now
okay.
What
so,
you saw in New York City was cultural.
Exactly.
Alcohol ads, magazines, things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
It was booming.
Cigarettes. You'd have billboards with Marlboro Men.
Yeah.
On there. And that was nothing. We didn't have seatbelts. We didn't have a lot of things.
Proxies.
We didn't have proxies.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Gen X. I mean, I was 10 years old and riding the public bus in New York City by myself. And that was not weird.
Right.
That was a normal thing.
Sure.
But that was just a different time. Now that's a whole other discussion.
Well, yeah, you had to get through the 80s.
We got through the 80s just fine. So like I think it's for a lot of us, it just makes us less skittish. So
Using or legalization?
No. This, sorry.
Or subways.
Yeah. Just the whole experience of being a free range child.
Yeah. What boroughs did you traverse?
Oh, I was in Manhattan. Yeah. I was in Manhattan. So it was like very few cars. Some of the other boroughs, cars are more common.
Sure.
But in Manhattan, the cars are not unusual.
So what was your pathway into cannabis?
So thank you for trying to. Seriously, we're going to cut all of this out, right?
Oh, I've already got reels lined up.
You just leave the puzzle to me. I'll figure out the puzzle. You just give me the pieces.
So I'm gonna come back. So to start to come all the way back, I come to cannabis from academia. But it's also medicinally. It's a passion of mine. I'm a cook. I'm a 4th generation cook. I mentioned the side quests. One of my side quests has always been cooking. Very passionate cook. I'm the weirdo who would rot pig parts in their basement. So I got really into curing meats. And that led to butchering and lots of sausage making and things like that. I've also been passionate about food preservation and medicinal herbs. And then my husband he works at the Minnesota Historical Society. He's a big history nerd. And that kind of coming together is how we got into cannabis in the late aughts. My brother-in-law, who is no longer with us, he ran through the pharmacopoeia. His body just processed the pharmaceuticals very, very quickly, and he needed the medicine for his anxiety and depression. And he had maxed out on yet another drug. And his doctor in the late aughts, his doctor said to him, well, I can't legally tell you this, but have you ever tried cannabis? And Mark was like, oh yeah, I used to smoke a lot when I was in my 20s, but now that I'm adult and I have children, I stopped smoking. And as a responsible adult, I started taking pharmaceuticals instead of self-medicating with cannabis.
In what state was he having that conversation?
In Minnesota. This was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And cannabis actually gave him another 3 years with his family. And it was our introduction into cannabis. Because like my parents, when we were growing up, I mean, we were big, heavy drinkers. Gin in the summer, whiskey in the winter, wine all the time.
Right.
I grew up, as I mentioned, in Cocktail Nation. That was just our normal. You didn't smoke weed. That was just looked down on. But alcohol, like in heroic amounts, was completely normal. I went to a wedding I went to in my 20s, we drank it was at a one of those clubs in New York, and the social clubs, and they're all big Scotch drinkers. We drank, the wedding party drank the club out of Scotch. Like, that's insane. But that was totally like, nobody even blinked at that.
And people, think about that. Think of that experience, like the max that you could do in public. You drank out the bar.
Oh yes, exactly. But it's and that, yes. So it's cultural. It's to everything there is a season. And and we're also seeing even before cannabis was started rolling through Minnesota, after COVID, I know we're experiencing in the United States less alcohol consumption.
Well, first it was more.
It was a lot more, and we got really good at during COVID too. I was twofering it during COVID.
Yeah, tell me about your COVID experience.
Oh my God! All right, so it's actually the COVID experience is related to the Terpene tasting kit. So long way around, I came to cannabis from the medicinal side with a big passion for cooking, and I also lived through the 90s and the aughts in Minnesota. So I remember wine tasting kits, and then the subsequent chocolate, coffee, Scotch tasting kits. And yes, everything can have a tasting kit which is actually appropriate. It's a sensory. Well, it is appropriate because it's a sensory experience, and senses are subjective.
We've kind of moved from what I heard you say as tasting kits into the subscription society. and I don't think I'm as familiar with the tasting kits that you mentioned, but tell me about the Terpene tasting kit.
You see, I totally respect that you keep trying to like bring me back around, because side quests, squirrels.
Yeah.
They're all, and weed and ADHD.
Well,
these things. We will eventually get there. Here, I promise you we will eventually get there.
No,
I've made your life hell.
Oh, this is easy.
Okay. So
I could take this a lot more windier.
I mean, he asked about COVID, and I was like, all right, let's go there.
So we got into cannabis in the late aughts, because of course I'm working at the University of St. Thomas, and my brother-in-law comes to us and says, "Can you get cannabis?" And I'm just like, well, no, actually, I can't, because I can't exactly walk up to one of the students and be like, "Hey, man, like, can you share your plug with me?" So,
I could have got you cannabis at St. Thomas around the late aughts.
Honestly, it was a known thing that security, like, you could.
Oh yeah,
St. Thomas,
security was pulling in cannabis.
Oh yeah, they had the best supply in town.
Yeah, damn near. Yeah,
because they were confiscating all of your weed.
They had the buffet.
Yes, yes. I mean, in St. Thomas, oh my God, the entire campus was a cloud of green smoke.
Really was. Marshall Avenue.
Yes, for decades. So, and actually, somebody who works in cannabis now is telling me a story when they were at St. Thomas in the 80s. Somebody I can't. I'm not going to share that with you.
No, that's fine.
But I'll just dangle the carrot. Somebody in the 80s was slinging weed at St. Thomas.
Well, if it's Drew Emmer, it's public information.
Shit. Okay, now you just please cut that out.
Friend of the show. He's told that story on the podcast. We love
great.
Drew.
Okay, great. Okay. So, terpene tasting kit. When I was growing up, and this is where we're going to come back to beer. So when I was growing up, beer came in light and dark. Yeah. Okay. And it's as we know, beer came in light and dark. And then the laws changed. And the folks that had the beer nerds, the guys and the people, the women who had been nerding out in their basements and brewing beer. Because let's face it, like, we love stuff like that in Minnesota. Winter is long.
We need our hobbies.
We need our hobbies. And it's like, and it's oftentimes making things. Like, I mean, for God's sakes, we love craft anything. We have a 3-day festival for wool. Like, that's...
Yep.
Minnesotans love their craft. So so craft beer comes, so all of those folks, the laws change, and folks who have been brewing in their basements for decades are able to come out and share their what they've been playing with, their artistry, their craftsmanship. So craft beer, aptly named, brewing beer is a craft. Brewing beer well is an art.
Yep. It's the same 4 ingredients. How are you going to do it?
Yes, that's the artistry.
Yep.
So with the laws changing and then folks coming out of their basements and being able to sell their artistry to the consumer, we developed a whole new appreciation for beer. And with that, we also needed to develop a new language.
Yep.
In order to communicate with each other about this like amorphous 3-dimensional cloud of subjective experience. Yep. How do you describe something so subjective to another person? So you need language, but not just language, but structure and framework.
Yep.
So what are some other things in our existences? Because it comes back to our senses.
Yep.
What are some other instances in our lives that require frameworks?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
But please answer.
Well,
but please
something
answer.
that pops out is always color.
Yes, actually, yes. And craft beer and aroma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or craft beer itself. So for that, in order to communicate with each other about what we were experiencing, we have a framework. So in craft beer, it's stout, porter, IPA, Bock, ale, Pilsner, wheat beer, and it's an expanding list. You go to Wild Minds in South Minneapolis, and they're doing some crazy stuff with fermentation.
Shout out to Wild Minds.
It's a full spectrum. It's just a spectrum. Yep. So it's beer, like most everything, like just about everything. I can't actually think of one thing that's binary.
I agree.
Nothing's binary. It's all a spectrum, right?
Because there's always movement.
There's fluidity, and then it's also subjectivity. So you mentioned color earlier. I love that. That's a great discussion for framework as well, and it's a great lead-in to terpenes and the terpene tasting cake. See, we got there eventually.
There are 6 major classes of terpenes.
There are, in fact, 6 super classes of terpenes. This was identified by SC Labs in the I want to say 2020.
Yeah.
Was when SC Labs out of California is they're the
leading
lab
authority.
They're the leading authority. They're the lab that the Emerald Cup used for decades. And they've been doing testing. They are like the lab that tests like everything in Northern California for decades and decades. And I'm sure, I don't know how it came about, but I envisioned like them sitting around one day smoking, like sharing a joint, saying, wow, we've got all this data. Like, what would be something cool to do? Like, oh yeah, let's write an algorithm and send it through the data and see if we come up with any commonalities. So they did that, and they came up with 95% of all commercially available weed in cannabis, or commercially available cannabis in the United States, falls into one of 6 super classes. 6. There are 200,000 terpenes available in the world.
That's amazing.
There are hundreds of terpenes available in cannabis. 95% of all commercially available cannabis in the United States falls into one of 6.
That's why there's more popular ones like myrcene.
Yes. Well, yeah, myrcene, and then like the myrcene, people, then it gets really narrow really fast. But to tie back to craft beer, we've been human beings have been interacting with cannabis for millennia since we were Homo erectus. Okay. And so it's not really a huge surprise. And we've been selecting for these terpenes this whole time. Parallel to craft beer, and going back to hops and cannabis used to be the same plant.
Yep.
And they about 28 million years ago they separated.
I heard it was 29 million years ago.
Okay, we're gonna split hairs, and I love that. Okay, we're fighting.
I'm being annoying. Stop flirting.
He's just dabbling.
Oh no.
Makes it sound like I'm leaking from somewhere, Steve.
Yeah, sorry. Shout out to the Dabbler Depot.
So the 8 most common terpenes found in hops are exactly the same as the 8 most common terpenes found in cannabis. So that is due to human selection and interaction with the plant, both plants, over hundreds of thousands of years. So fast forward to, and we have all of these there's so much anecdotal information about cannabis. We've been using cannabis medicinally. This is part of our heritage. We've been using it as humans. We've been using it medicinally and spiritually since we were Homo erectus. And there's the stoned monkey theory, which I think is super fun. Who knows? But
so
fast
kind of
forward,
within 95%, because you said, you can find nearly all the same 6 major terpenes within 95% of cannabis.
As dominant.
But in the same sense, though, terpenes make up between 5 and 10% of the total oils that a cannabis flower produces, meaning they're not dominant. They're a minor part of it, but it's a major interaction between the THC and the terpenes.
And the phenols, the thiols, the flavonoids, and there's a spectrum of other things that are I'm in no way dismissing.
Right.
This is not
Brian Jones covered that as well with us on the show, where he's like, it's about the entire plant.
It's about and that's the entourage effect.
Right.
And that's the entourage effect. But this is the 6 super classes. This is just a framework.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a framework for to start our discussion about craft cannabis. So it's a framework you kind of like, and this is where it comes into colors very well. So we have what's a classification system for colors? We talked about the classification system of beer. What's a classification system of colors?
Hue.
I don't know what it's called, but you have blue, red, green.
The wheel.
Yeah, like the primary colors. Yeah. Primary colors.
Which I would imagine there's around that many primary colors. 6 to 8 primary colors.
Oh, only 3.
Oh, really? Blue,
red,
yellow. I'm thinking of like the color wheel.
Violet, indigo, blue and green, yellow, orange and red.
See, as a photographer and somebody who has studied color for a long, long time, I could do my 28 million.
I'm off base there. Yeah.
Well, it's like, it's not a yes and no. It's a conversation.
It's
and that's, I think, the point we're really arriving at is like
nothing's binary. It's nothing else.
You see green differently than I see green. We're both colorblind.
Oh, yeah.
But we both agree that the photons of light hitting our optic nerve at a certain speed, we both agree based on a system of understanding that that's going to be green, even though theoretically I could be seeing purple. But I just know that shade of purple in my brain is the universe's, or like the collective understanding of green.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with
It's exactly the same thing. So, and this is where color is a great analogy, because we learn our colors. So we learn blue, red, yellow, green, black, white. But what we're seeing, or what we individually perceive, is unique to us. based on our physiology and also its nature and nurture, also our life experiences. But but we are acculturated. We learn our colors so that we collectively, however I see that, we have that language, the shared language that says that's blue, that's blue, that's blue, that's blue, 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 blue. All of them are different blues, but we've over time learned the language that says what you're perceiving, this is what we as a community call blue.
Yeah.
There are a million shades of them, and those are all dependent on many other factors, including the phenols and thiols and flavonoids, etc. But we've collectively, we call this category blue. Okay, so terpene tasting kit. Today, we're going to learn blue. It's simply a repetition. You're going to teach your brain to equate the smell that you find in that vial with the word myrcene in your brain. Okay, it's not going to happen in one. It's going to take time. Again, repetition. But eventually, you will be able to. So the terpene kit works. It uses the 6 superclasses as a framework for discussion using household spices, so that you are increasing your vocabulary, your lexicon for describing the flower that you're consuming. So it ties in a couple of that shared language. The shared language is very important.
We'll call it blue.
We'll call it blue, but that shared language is incredibly important because what it does is it empowers us to not just ask for what we want, but also to receive what we've asked for. Specifically when we are having an intentional consumption experience, or if we're looking to cannabis medicinally, because each of the terpenes they affect you uniquely. But when you know how your body reacts to, say, myrcene dominant flower, then you can without going to strain names, which are notoriously unreliable,
especially on the Northern Lights podcast.
You're empowered to curate your own experience and medicinal experience as well, based on the dominant terpene in the profile. So it makes for it is the language of craft cannabis. I will argue that it's the language of craft cannabis. And that also, and because we test for it, it's on the COA. So we're now when we know our terpenes, or we at least know them, how those affect us, then we can walk into our dispensary, even if we're not able to smell the jar itself, and ask for what we're looking for. So I want something to soothe my muscles and slow my brain at the end of the night. So I'm going to look for something that's more myrcene, caryophyllene co-dominant. I know that for myself, caryophyllene gives me a little histamine reaction. But I like the fact that it slows my brain. So I like the caryophyllene anyway. And I also happen to find out that limonene gives me a little anxiety. So if I'm going to have something at the end of the night, I'm going to really look to maximize the myrcene caryophyllene and minimize the limonene in the flower that I'm smoking.
Why does it tend to be one terpene dominant?
I don't know.
So that's got to be
just
something
test
natural that, I'm just reflecting on it in my head. I'm thinking, okay, how does that reflect the greater life as we know it, where there's one dominant thing, and that's what we can associate in our head.
So okay, the analogy that you're going for, there might be one terpene that's dominant. There might be co-dominant terpenes. There might be three or four all co-dominant terpenes.
Right. That's great.
There's always supporting secondary and tertiary terpenes. It's the entourage effect. If you're smoking whole plant, the whole plant includes the spectrum.
If you're smoking whole plant and you're smoking salad, let's say you're smoking multiple different strains of cannabis.
You've been to my house.
You know, mi casa, su casa. So you could very well be getting multiple different. You could be getting all 6 super classes of terpenes, depending on how very varied your strains are inside your jar.
So these are the 6 super classes. They but they're not the only common terpenes.
Okay.
You'll very frequently find, humulene, linalool, geraniol.
Sure.
Those are all incredibly common terpenes to be
Okay.
found in cannabis. I just focused on these 6 because it's 6. 6 is easy. we can learn 6. We learned ale. But what we were talking about earlier, the names are hard, and I think that's a stumbling block.
What should we call this one?
Frank.
But what I think is remarkable is that it feels sciencey.
It is science.
It is, and so cannabis is science.
Cannabis, it's our lives are science.
Well, I'm just trying to come up with the
Physics
marketing.
and biology and chemistry, all rolled up.
Are terpenes considered essential oils?
No, they are actually what essential oils are made up of.
Essential oils come from terpenes.
Essential oils are made out of terpenes.
Are made out of terpenes.
Yes.
Ingredients in...
Terpenes are the ingredients of essential oils.
That's right. That's right. Put that on LinkedIn.
Put that on a t-shirt and sell it.
So, Ghislaine, you are very awkward sometimes. I enjoy it.
Oh, but that was actually my make it awkward noise.
Yeah.
No, my friend Kate, who from St. Thomas, she'd walk around, she'd go,
The old wooden sign just hanging in the the old barn door, just sitting in the breeze.
Yeah.
We'd come out of meetings, we'd be walking down the hall, and she'd be like,
I want to go home.
or no, she was like, well, that was awkward. Again, we're gonna cut all this.
No, we're not. I'm the boss here.
You know, we actually. Do you watch the show? Do you ever watch the show?
I have watched the show. I'm not your. I'm still learning to appreciate podcasts in general. I'm not a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the, I'm not, it,
My friend
not a YouTuber
Spencer was
either.
telling me that same thing. He doesn't.
he doesn't want, yeah. I take my information in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But and actually that's an interest. So yes, so the terpene. So let's go through an exercise. Okay, so today you're going to learn caryophyllene.
Yes.
Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick up the vial, open it up, hold it up to your nose, and take 3 quick sniffs. Pull it away from your nose, and then pull it back and take 1 deep smell. And as you're doing it, think to yourself, caryophyllene.
Caryophyllene.
So all you're doing is teaching your brain to equate what you perceive in that vial with the word caryophyllene. You are building that memory pathway. You have started the process of building that memory pathway. Another way to reinforce
Caryophyllene.
that it'll stick, the stickiness of it,
Yeah.
is to think about the other things that are going on around you. Tie it into other experiences.
You
So
know, that
caryophyllene.
we had terpenes in the Northern Lights cannabis beverage.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yes, we were.
That makes me think of the Northern Lights cannabis beverage.
Excellent. Yes. So you chose your. So caryophyllene is kind of chill.
Mhm.
So to tie it back to cannabis not being binary, the language of binary would be indica and sativa.
Okay.
And
yes.
so, and as we know, cannabis is not binary.
Right.
It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum in flavor. It's a spectrum in aroma. and it's a spectrum and experience. And how a terpene flower, how a cannabis flower smells is going to tell you how it's going to make you feel before you consume it. So if you're going for intentional consumption or conscientious consumption, you want that caryophyllene at the end of your day to slow your brain. It's for me, it's great for stopping a racing brain. I quite like it for that. So learn the caryophyllene, but caryophyllene is found in lots of things. So, and we want to develop, not just teach you the 6 super classes, but we also want to develop your language and your lexicon within those super classes. So we're going to look for caryophyllene and other things. And that also builds that memory pathway. So I want you to go back to the vial of caryophyllene, and you keep going back to it as many times as you need. But what I want you to do is I want you to pick up both of these.
Yeah, what do we have in the jars?
So what you're going to do is you're going to open up the jar and look for the smell of that caryophyllene in each of the jars of spices. Those are the one that you have in your hand is allspice, and I literally just pulled this out of my spice cabinet. So, and go back to the vial as many times as you need. You're building that memory pathway because now you're looking for that one smell, the smell of the caryophyllene, in amongst all of the other terpenes that are in allspice. So it's kind of like trying to find the rose in a field of lilies.
That's pretty.
But it's training your brain.
Train your brain. Did you see there was a guy at the Timberwolves game on the Jumbotron?
Yeah, dude, they got him.
They got him.
White-handed. Like, the camera is, like, panning across. It's probably, like, during a stoppage of play, the camera's just, like, panning down, like, one row of young people. And then it kind of just slows down on this one guy, and I'm going to put the microphone down so I can imitate his movements. And scene.
Black pepper? Let me guess.
Snuff. I think it was snuff.
It was snuff?
Yeah, snuff, for sure. Because that's still super popular.
Except he was at the Target Center and not Gastoff's.
Well, hey, the Target Center back in the 80s, 90s, probably a little booger sugar going around.
I mean, in the early aughts, I think there may have been some things going on there, but like it's almost a rite of passage to smoke cannabis in a stadium, like U.S. Bank Stadium, for example.
A rite of passage as long as you don't get lifetime banned afterwards.
No, I've never smoked at Lifetime.
Convicted? No, never convicted.
What is this? This is clove?
This is clove, yes. Now, are you now some people, it's dependent on your physiology. It's also dependent on your how you grew up and the foods that you had growing up. So you might smell it in one. Some people smell it in one and not the other. Some people smell it in neither. Some people smell it in both.
Yeah, that's what I'm smelling it in one and not the other.
Oh, okay. Which one are you smelling it in?
I'm smelling it in the allspice.
Really?
I caught an undertone of caryophyllene.
So let's try another one.
Yeah, I want to try that. I want to try that jar you've got there.
So we have myrcene and fresh basil. And then see if this one works for you.
Wow. That is some fresh basil.
Did you smell the myrcene in it?
I'm about to.
Okay, great. So yeah, it's the same. It's same steps. 3, take it away, pull it back. 1 deep one, myrcene.
Myrcene.
I feel like I'm at church.
So now I want you to, because as strain names notoriously unreliable, what I'd like you to do is look for the myrcene and the caryophyllene in this flower.
Okay. Wow.
So if you're in the wild,
Yes.
and you can still tell what you're about to smoke. So I wouldn't want to smoke something that was limonene dominant at the end of the evening. I'm gonna say no to something like that. Or same with, I wouldn't want to smoke something that was myrcene heavy in the morning.
Are you considered a super taster?
I am not a super taster.
Okay.
I wish I were a super taster.
It seems like a fun power to have.
I was not blessed with the super taster gene, but I do work at it.
Yeah. And it is a muscle to be exercised.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can just naturally like anything in life, you can be predisposed to it, or you can acquire it through just brute force.
And that gets to the point of the discussion and having the vernacular to then put, like, I knew that some wines I drank were spicy, but I didn't know the difference between peppercorn and like whatever else.
Right. And when a lot of us were growing up, wine came in white and red.
Right.
So we're just, then you learned the difference between a Pinot Noir and a Merlot. Mm-hmm. And you have a depth of that language, learning that language and having that shared language gives you a deeper not just understanding, because you can have the understanding and not have the language.
Yeah.
But in order to communicate with each other, we need to have that language.
Yep.
You have a beautiful perspective on cannabis.
I love it. I love hearing this.
I really do. I do.
I spent a lot of time alone in the woods.
Did you? Yeah.
Smoking weed. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed campfires are written in the terpene tasting kit literature here on the table. If people are interested in getting next to you at a campfire, will you be back at any Brainerd Lakes events this summer?
Oh, absolutely.
I would love to have you back.
Absolutely. I love going up there. It's what a great group of folk. Winter is, I imagine there's a deep heritage there is a deep heritage of cannabis in the northern part of Minnesota. Minnesota has an amazing heritage of cannabis. New York Mills in 1987, New York Mills was the site of the largest land-based cannabis bust in U.S. history. So yes, they pulled out 90 trucks, 90 semis of, no, that's not true.
Where was
it? Was 90 tons of flour, and I'm assuming that included the dirt balls. Tanner's coming in. Tanner, do you have better dates for this?
No, the New York Mills case is, I think, the most interesting. I just wanted to jump in because I love hearing you talk about it. But yeah, there's a picture from the court case of like a literal pile of weed with officers standing on top of it. That it was so much cannabis that was seized.
Yeah. And this is 1987. So I want to somebody's Meemaw has like the treasure trove in genetics in their freezer somewhere, because this is 1987, and that was post the second or third great hybridization of cannabis, and that's when we started using cannabis without males, the sensimilla. So the jar appeal, the presentation of cannabis in 1987 was not that much different than what we presume today. And they like 90 tons in New York Mills, Minnesota. They weren't cherry picking clones and planting them hand by like one at a time in this field. But the expectation for the end user was still going to be that kind of that nice pristine bud. So they had to. So yeah, I'm curious to see.
Yeah, and rumor is that some of those fields had like ice on the plants because it was so late in the season that they were harvesting, and they were still alive. So some hardy genetics. It would be.
So I'm excited to. I'm so excited for full sun, full season.
Oh yeah.
In Minnesota, that is beautiful, beautiful cannabis.
It's like you look what the university can do with apples. Think about what it's going to do with cannabis.
Well, and that's the artistry. Let's give everybody all the tools and go forth and Johnny Appleweed.
I
Ghislaine, we'd love to have you back in the future.
Yeah, let's do like the deep dive 3 hour where there is no outline, there's no through thread. We just let you two play tennis, basically.
Oh, okay.
We're just both unmedicated.
Badminton, just badminton. I'm looking forward to celebrating another year of legalization, another summer of legalization with you. And we're still so early in the above ground version of this industry.
Oh, yes.
And for you to be bringing the knowledge that you have around what makes the plant so special, there's such opportunity to build on this through craft cannabis.
Oh, yes. And that's where, I mean, that is my sincerest hope, because we have so many amazing artists in this state, and I am so excited to try all the things. That's where that's where we're going to shine. Was with our local artists, and there are some folks who have been technical, like they've been mastering their art for decades.
Right. We're not going to talk about the Capitol and what's going on this part of the show.
Okay.
We've already talked about the news before this episode airs, right? So right before. But it is frustrating to talk about these artists, these generational artists, and then see how challenging above ground adult use recreational cannabis will be to sell in Minnesota at this time in 2025.
Legally.
Yes. And really that's the reality. And I'm not the cops. So you bring up a good point, you know?
We're coming out of 90 years of prohibition.
Yeah.
That is foundational to a lot of different things to why we think a lot of different things. If you look at alcohol prohibition, when alcohol was prohibited for, I think, 20 something years back, 90 years ago, we still have an illegal alcohol trade in the United States. Cannabis has been illegal for 90 years. Those supply and demand pathways are pretty well established.
Yes.
I don't think that they're really going to go anywhere. And if we look at California as an example, the last I heard, 40% of all cannabis transactions in California still happen on the legacy market. And California has been basically legal for 30 years. 97 was when 215 medical, but it was all woo-woo for a long time before 64.
But less than a decade adult use legal is
less than a decade. Yeah, it was, I think 17 was when they passed 64.
Yeah.
But 215 is back in 97, and you would assume that after 30 years, there would be a bigger dent than 60%.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm at a weird place where it's like I'm trying to, consumers have a choice,
Absolutely. And this is what, and it may be in 90 years of prohibition, they got their hands on a Budweiser. And no shame to Budweiser. Who doesn't love a Bud? I've never shamed somebody for drinking a Budweiser.
Yes.
But man, we've got Liftbridge, and we've got Modest, and we've got Indeed,
dozens.
Yes, we have some Fulton. We have an amazing Dangerous Man. We have an amazing Tradition, Fair State.
Yeah, I mean, and well,
gosh, they're gone.
20 years now of craft beer.
Yes. And so people don't know about it yet. They still think they're thinking in binary terms. They're thinking in terms of indica and sativa. They don't necessarily, and this is where the tenets of quality come in, and why it's tied to prohibition. So alcohol prohibition, that's when you started. Before alcohol prohibition, most folks drank beer and wine, which is a much lower proof. But that's where the flavor and the aromas are. That's where that conscious consumption, that the appreciation for the artistry, appreciation for the craft. is more so in beer and wine. Certainly, I mean, I'm not shaming whiskey. I mean, and Scotch, those are also, and cognac. Yes, not denying them their artistry and their technique, but they're much higher proof. So when alcohol became prohibited, it was more cost effective to ship spirits, and that's when you saw a rise in cocktails because people had to get used to the taste. But you were purchasing according to proof because it was less expensive to ship.
Yeah.
In cannabis, we're not coming out of prohibition. We've been trained to purchase cannabis according to THC content because it's cheaper to ship. You're getting more bang for your buck. So now that we're moving into craft, we're learning that it's more about the terpene content. That you really want to be purchasing your cannabis according to the terpene percentage and the terpene profile versus the THC percentage.
Yeah, I've been hearing that.
It's like do you want to get a nice beer or do you want to do shots of Everclear? I just think it depends on your goal.
But I
mean, if you want to do shots of Everclear, you do you.
I did shots of Everclear once, and I went to jail. I didn't go quite to jail, but I got close. I got put in a police car.
You were Zombie Santa, were you?
I was like doing.
Do you remember Zombie Santa from St. Thomas?
Yeah. Oh no.
That made the national news.
Yeah, there was a few things at St. Thomas that made the national news when I was there.
Were you involved in any of them?
No, thankfully. I kept it all local. Yeah, I made my impact on the streets.
Allegedly.
We really have gone along. We've gone a long way around here, Ghislaine. I don't know how to wrap this up, so let me just say, let's keep hanging out at events and telling people about terpenes because they are really what makes the plant special and what you should be looking for to understand your lifestyle.
Yes.
I love it. Official
to enhance your life.
Yep.
And to keep your body healthy.
Okay. Yeah. I love the beer side of this as well. It was great to hear your perspective throughout this conversation.
I remember, the first time we smoked together would have been CannaCon 4. It was like between sessions. You had asked me to like video some of the sessions, and I was like, absolutely happy to. And I'm like, okay, between sessions, let's go get a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And I go out there, and immediately you invited me into your circle, just handed me whatever you guys were puffing on, and I was like, just instantaneous warm welcome feelings from you. So thank you for being so welcoming to all in this industry.
Yes, part of the community, a big part. Certified Ganjier, people can find more online.
Find me on LinkedIn, Ghislaine Ball, and then on Instagram, I'm Terpene Tasting Kit.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been awesome. Yay! Another interview of Northern Lights. Thanks to everybody who's been watching. We'll be right back.
Attention all Minnesota cannabis lovers. Put down your joint, bong, vaporizer, or whatever else you're currently holding while you're listening to your favorite podcast and mark your calendar for the 2nd annual Doobie Dabbler Cannabis Festival, happening September 5th and 6th at Seavers Fall Festival Grounds in Shakopee. This 2-day festival is a cannabis lover's dream, featuring over 100 acres of vendors, artisans, industry pro seminars, live music, food trucks, and the wackiest and wildest activities your stoned imagination can come up with. Doobie Dabbler is the can't-miss cannabis party of the year. Come join thousands of your newest buddies in celebration of the ever-growing Minnesota cannabis culture at Seavers Fall Festival Grounds in Shakopee, September 5th and 6th for the 2025 Doobie Dabbler. Tickets and more available at doobiedabbler.com. Doobie Dabbler, Minnesota's great green get-together. Must be 21 years of age or older to attend. Powered by the teams behind Beer Dabbler, Barris Joy, and Hunt Atkins.
Welcome back to another product review with the Northern Lights podcast. Today I'm joined by Alicia Bellamy, Secretary of the Minnesota Cannabis College, and Leah Kohlross, founder of Sprout Cannabis, 23rd State. And you've got some brand new products to show today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow. Congratulations. It's not easy to bring a product to market. Tell us a little bit about how you created Shake Edible Glitter Drops.
Yeah, Shake Edible Glitter Drops. They are a beverage enhancer. They contain THC and CBG. You can add them to water, a mocktail, whatever you want, really.
What are the feelings that you've noticed having tried this product a number of times? Like, how does it elevate the beverages that you've had it with?
What I've noticed is, when you have the bottle and you start shaking it and it's fun and you see the pretty glitter in the bottle and then you add it to your drink, and it's different than just like pouring something in your beverage, like an emulsion that will add those milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
You're adding color, you're adding life. It adds a lot of extra aesthetic, I guess, to your drink.
Sure.
It makes it really special. You have so much control because one dropper is only 1 milligram, so you can have a low dose or just keep adding more and more.
Okay. And how did you decide, what limitations were you faced with when developing this product from a milligram standpoint, or what type of consumer did you look to create this product for?
Yeah, well, I wanted to give the consumer control, right? Some people really like the microdose option, and some people like to have a lot more milligrams in their drink. So I was really looking towards the Canna Curious, and sorry.
No, Jordan's here. Any breaks that are just...
You give me the puzzle pieces all day. We're doing just fine.
Yeah, for sure. So it's 1 milligram THC, 3 milligrams CBG per dropper.
Per dropper.
Yeah. And so you're able to get, I don't know, maybe 30 droppers in a full, it's a standard tincture size bottle.
I thought it would be easy math. Technically, I could have put 50 milligrams in the bottle, but, then you're at 2 droppers, what is that? At 3 droppers, how many milligrams in am
Sure.
I? So just for easy math, I did 1 milligram per dropper, 30 milligrams in the bottle, and there's 30 droppers worth. So
totally, it brings me back to the early CBD days when this is like the only size bottle you could find, and you're just like 16.67 milligrams per dropper, and it's just like, okay, how many am I taking?
Yeah.
Now, where do you think like this product will be sold? Are you actively getting into stores right now, or is it available online?
It's available online on 23state.com.
Okay.
You can shop all of our colors there, and we are, we just launched, so
right,
we're
brand new, yeah.
in the initial stages of getting into retail locations.
For sure. So you were saying is it 23rd state or is it 23 state?
The web address is 23state.com.
23state.com.
The company is 23rd
Right,
state.
right.
Yeah.
And that came about as Minnesota's like the 23rd state to legalize cannabis. And you guys kind of got into the cannabis industry right after that. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so 23rd State was born as a celebration for this new freedom that we have here in Minnesota for the adult cannabis market. And just made sense to use that as our hemp beverage company.
Sure.
So really excited to get it out there to the public and be part of that celebration with everyone.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited to try it myself. Let's get into it. Let's try it. So
let's go.
How would you best recommend trying Shake today?
It goes great, like I said, in anything. It doesn't have a flavor.
Okay.
So you really can add it to whatever you're drinking.
Sure.
I don't recommend with alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
It's up to you if you want to do that. But
right.
Today we're going to mix it with one of my beverages that I've been working on.
Okay.
It's called Fresh Press. It's a pear cider.
Oh, wow.
It's really tasty.
I like the name.
It is very tasty.
Hold that up for the camera, Steve.
Now, Alicia, tell me a little bit about your involvement in and throughout this process for Leah and Casey and 23rd State for developing these products. Kind of what role did you play throughout this journey?
I think I had the easiest part of the entire development.
Sure.
And that was to taste and smell to make sure that everything was balanced and make sure there was no stray smells because, working with terpenes and working with different emulsions, some of them don't smell so pretty. And,
Sure.
Your nose drinks in first and then your taste buds after. So I just helped balance it and make it. I think it's one of the better beverages I've ever had.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about your background in culinary.
So I have been around the Twin Cities, chefing around since 2003.
Okay.
I graduated from AI Minneapolis. That's actually AI Minnesota.
Is that Arts Institute?
Yep, Arts Institute in Minnesota.
Okay.
I helped open up a La Meridian Hotel. That was my first gig. So I got to see like the best of the best for my first job.
Is that the Chambers Hotel?
No.
Okay.
So let's go a little further back.
Yeah.
It was actually, it's La Meridian. Now I think it's called the Lowell or the Lofton. I don't even know what it's called anymore.
Yeah. On Hennepin?
No.
Okay, I'm way off.
Yeah, it's off First Ave.
First Ave.
So it was La Meridian, then it turned to Graves, then it turned to Lowell's.
Oh, it's Lowe's.
I don't know.
L-O.
Oh, okay. So
in the hotel, pretty much right across the street from the Target Center.
Correct.
Oh, badass. Okay, so that was back like Block E days.
Yep.
Okay.
When there was the actual movie theater over there.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Okay.
Then I've just been chefing around like all over, Pots Luna, Cafe L'Arcat. And then I opened up a restaurant on 50th and France called Beaujay's. And now I do consulting. I still do private parties and all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been in the cannabis industry in the legacy market probably since I was like 18, 17, something like that.
Right,
So,
sure. Awesome. How did you get connected to Leah and Casey?
Casey and I have been friends for quite a few years.
Okay.
We were in our 20s. We're in our 40s now. So
Oh, wow, you guys have known each other
Been
a
a
long
while.
time. Oh,
yeah, it's been a while.
That's
I
cool.
can't remember exactly, but we used to tear up the streets a little bit together and do some partying.
I
and,
see. All right. Well, it comes all the way back around in 20 milligram doses, huh?
Oh, yeah. So we used to make this kind of stuff in our kitchen, well, in Casey's kitchen. But now it's like good to see it like come into like a legal market and be able to share it with the community.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's try the shakes.
I hope it doesn't give you the shakes.
Yeah, that's right.
It will not give you the shakes.
That's
It'll
good.
be very unshooken. Which color do you guys want?
Green's my favorite color.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm colorblind. I like this one. Is this green?
that's gold. That's
Okay,
gold.
I like gold.
You
I like
have-
gold, baby.
You have the gold over there. So if you want to do your own,
Sure.
let's see. I guess we could all do our own. There you go.
So shake is kind of, in this scenario where we have the fresh press 10 milligram beverage, shake's kind of the cherry on top.
Definitely. You know, I used to be a wine drinker and I would have my wine and I'd be at the bar and I'd finish it and then I just want like a little extra
Yes.
without like buying another glass of wine.
Right.
And this kind of gives you that option where you just want like a little bit more, but not like a full beverage.
Mm-hmm. A nice bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would drink wine and sometimes like a half glass. It's a little bit too much.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you find yourself enjoying the THC beverages, Alicia?
It really depends on what's in them. Honestly, I have like some stomach issues.
Sure.
So sometimes if it has like certain ingredients, it just doesn't sit well with me.
Sure.
But like the flavors, like some of the seltzers, I don't think I'm a seltzer person.
Okay.
But like some of the other beverages I've had, have been really good. And some have not been so great. But this one I think is really good.
That's very fair. That's very fair.
I'm just doing
think I'm gonna
2
double.
droppers full.
Okay.
So that's 2 milligrams. You can do as many as you want.
2 milligrams THC, 6 milligrams CBG.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I've got the gold in here.
Yeah, I'll get you the stir.
I'm gonna do one more just to really
Just for good
accentuate
measure.
the.
Yeah.
the
Well, on camera, you need to. Yeah.
See the shimmer? Look at those legs.
So not only are we trying a brand new edible glitter drop, we're also trying a brand new THC beverage.
That's right.
All formulated and produced at Earl Giles?
Correct.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And here we are at the Dabbler Depot Seed and Sesh.
Awesome. Well, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Tuesday to all who watch.
Turning up on a Tuesday.
Oh, that's really nice. I haven't had a pear flavored beverage before that in the THC space. Is that part of what what made you? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like so many beverages are just kind of a copy and paste of the next brand's flavor profile. So I really wanted to make something different, unique, that isn't already out there.
Very good drink, by the way.
Thank you.
Love the flavor on that. The THC edible glitter drops, there's no flavor per se to those, right? So it's
Correct.
just an add to whatever experience you're looking to curate or create.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the idea come from? We heard glitter just a minute ago. So I know that's a big part of your persona. Mm-hmm. How did you come to find this idea, and how does it resonate with you and the consumers that you're trying to serve?
So I come from a cosmetics background. I'm always going to gravitate towards sparkly, pretty things. When I started creating the beverages, I wanted to put glitter in them, but then I realized they're in a can, you can't see the glitter, so what's the point?
Sure.
So I was starting to think about ways to produce a glitter product that has THC, and kind of out of my kitchen was born. I had a little tincture bottle from another brand, and I had some powdered edible glitter in my kitchen, and I thought, well, let's put those two together, see what happens. And then I approached Earl Giles, and they're like, this is a no-brainer. We're absolutely doing this. And so over the months, we worked with the marketing team and really came up with a good marketing, plan and branding. But another main reason why I came up with this product specifically is, after I quit alcohol, I'm going out to restaurants and bars, and a lot of places carry THC beverages, which is awesome.
Right.
But there's also a lot that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And, your last guy, Corey Lake, can talk about that these places are nervous because they don't understand how the insurance works and what the rules are. So I thought, why not make something accessible to any consumer? They can carry it in their purse or in their pocket and bring it with them and dose their drinks themselves while they're out. And it doesn't matter if the bar or restaurant carries THC beverages. They can make their water into a THC beverage. They can order a mocktail. And it's exciting, and it's pretty, and it's fun, and it's different. It's more of a celebration than just, dumping a milky-looking emulsion into a drink. All of a sudden, it's glitter, and it's exciting, and it's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
And you can control it.
Awesome. So how far have you experimented? How glitter-tastic have you made these drinks? like what's the possibilities here?
You want to dump the whole thing in there? That's up to you. I would say, personally, I'm kind of a lightweight. On our photo shoots, we've gone pretty crazy.
Okay.
That
with
looks
glitter.
really cool.
Whoa, now I'm seeing it. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The serving is 3 droppers, but the more you add, the prettier your drink is.
Wow.
The prettier your night.
The logic.
Yeah.
The logic.
The more fun you can have.
Oh, I dig it.
Yeah. Well, now I feel left out. I need more.
Yeah, party. It's the Northern Lights podcast. We're here to have a good time.
That does look very Northern Light-ish.
Oh, true. I feel like I'm on a sandy beach.
And then you're gonna smile, and it's just gonna be
glitter.
Oh, no, never mind.
I love the drink. I can't get over the drink. I'm glad you brought these. I'm excited for the inevitable debut. There's a lot going on in the industry in Minnesota, ups and downs here. How did you stay focused on Shake when you had so many other thoughts, whether it's business related, outside of the industry related? What kind of kept you focused throughout this entire journey? How did it end up coming to market? Because I know it's been a process.
It has been a process. And I think that when, with Sprout, I have an application in for the lottery. And when the lottery was canceled and all of a sudden we had this big stretch of time before the next one happened, I just really seized that free time. I was super prepared for Sprout and everything that we need to be up and running for that. And so I hit that marker, and now I have this big stretch of time. So anyways.
Right. No, it makes sense because I've known you since you were kind of launching Sprout. You were coming to Canna Connect events, and, we've talked about that on the show here before. But it makes sense given that November to March time period, you were probably like, what do I do with my hands? I thought I was going to be working on a license right now. So you pivoted into the hemp side, and you're able to focus on bringing some hemp products to market. And will you be able to kind of do both, do you think, between your two companies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, they'll really go hand in hand.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Well, if folks want to find you online, where can they go, and where would you recommend that they check things out?
You can check us out at 23state.com and on Instagram at Shake Drops.
Awesome. Alicia, so good to see you as well. Looking forward to what you do with the Minnesota Cannabis College. Great products here. And if folks want to find you online, where can they see?
I'm Herbs and Herbs MN on Instagram.
Herbs and Herbs.
And I do other consulting. So if you want another tasty drink like Leah and Casey's, let me know.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, make sure to check both accounts out, and appreciate you both here. We'll be right back.
And we're back. All right, friends, the end of the episode. I wonder what we're going to do for the last part. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I think back to season 1 when we actually had that third segment be just like something different every time, and the anxiety that I felt every time, being like, what are we going to do?
So what's your favorite animal?
Yeah. A lot of listener questions. So thanks for people in those early days who kept us running. But no, the high note, our favorite way to end out the week. Something that we were thinking about, something that caught our eye, something that maybe we shared. We'll pass in a J or something. What have you guys been thinking on this week?
My high note, since we didn't talk about it, my high note is the Shake product review that we did earlier in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fun to record early today. I had never really given glitter drops a try.
Mm-hmm.
Had never really thought about putting glitter drops into my cannabis beverage. But it was fun to like dose my beverage even further. We talked about on the show the 100 milligrams of CBG. And seeing Leah, sitting down with Leah today, it was cool to get her energy from her perspective coming into the industry after adult use legalization passed.
Yeah.
And to see like there are still people looking to bring new hemp products to market that are outside of a 12-ounce can.
Yeah.
So shout out to Leah and Casey, and it was cool. What do you think of the glitter drops?
Well, first off, it was the pear seltzer, the 2020
coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon, that I really liked. I think you mentioned it, that pear flavored things aren't really something that you've even really seen in the industry, or even like in pop, and like it's just an underutilized flavor profile, and
especially with 110 milligrams in it.
Wow. I liked it. I'm less inclined for the, I don't need glitter in my drink. I like the element of the self-dosing, hey, I'm going to a show, I'm going to a game, I don't want to be drinking alcohol or spending $19 on a beer or a cocktail. It's I can have my, Arnold Palmer that costs $6 at a venue, and then
We've got a lot of guys that listen to this show. Maybe they could pick up a bottle of shake for their partner or their
something to zhuzh up the kitchen.
Yeah.
Spice up the cocktail bar.
Yeah, that stuff is real cool.
Tanner, I promise to never change if you don't.
All right, never.
Wolves back.
Wolves back out. Woo!
I'm hoping for Denver, but I'll take Oklahoma City.
It feels like it's gonna be fine either way. Honestly, like they're both gonna be lights out tournaments. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Or it's
series.
They're both gonna be lights out series, but it's gonna be awesome and good basketball. I know we've got Denver's number, but
series is looking to run from May 20th to June 1st. So that Western Conference Finals could get us close to the lottery. It'd be nice to be talking Timberwolves and Cannabis lottery at the same damn time.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, a tough time to be a Minnesota Cannabis fan, but good time to be a Minnesota sports fan.
Yeah.
Sort of a little bit of a twist there. And
beautiful.
And the Lynx season is has
Yeah.
started up. The MN United beat Messi's
Yeah,
team,
I saw that.
4-1 last
Insane.
week. I didn't even know Messi was in town until
I might even
3
go to a
hours
Twins
after.
game.
Yeah,
I only knew because I saw his bodyguard was in town, and so figured he had to be in town too.
of course.
I drove past it on 94 East. It was really nice to drive there on 94.
The closest
On
you've
Saturday.
ever been to Messi is that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you just reached out and you could smell his
Allianz.
Argentinian blood.
The Madrid Terps.
Yeah. What is that? Oh God, these are. Wait, no. But Madrid. Isn't he from Argentina?
Oh, perhaps.
I'm pretty sure he's from.
Okay, there we go.
He's Argentinian. So hey, still like a lot of good wine.
There we go.
You got wine in Spain. You got wine in
That's
Argentina.
Argentina.
I'm showing how much I know about the world of football outside of
But what
Minnesota.
about the women's?
Oh, yeah, Minnesota Frost. So jumping right to mine, it was such a good week to be a Frost fan. It was incredible to see them just kick fucking ass against Toronto.
It was like varsity versus JV. It
Yeah.
was incredible.
They cleaned up.
Yep.
Didn't we like?
Yeah, one of the games was 5-8,
Yeah.
and I really feel as though it was just because the Frost got to a point where it's like, we don't really got to play as hard. If they get a goal or two, like it's no big deal.
More like the Frost 8.
Yeah, they did 8. Indeed, the Toronto.
Were there any frosty dabs in your?
Way too many. Oh yeah, especially after that last game where they were down like the entire game up until just like a couple minutes before it ended. They got their final goal, ended up winning the game, winning the series and making their way onto that cup. So so stoked to see. Could we win a second one? I hope so. I will be doing big dabs regardless, but it'd be cool if they were celebratory dabs.
It feels good to be like the Yankees or the Lakers. Or
Yeah.
Our gals hockey team is just crushing. So.
Really, women's teams in general do well here.
Mm-hmm.
The Lynx got robbed last year in the finals,
That
but
was an
otherwise that
ugly
was a
game.
great season.
I saw this great meme online that was like the Incredibles, the I fear no woman, except, and then it showed the Frost logo.
Yep.
Except that.
Paige Beckers, the famous basketball player from Hopkins, they renamed Hopkins today Paige Beckers, Minnesota for one day.
I love it.
Which is just hilarious. Shout out to Andy Herzog and our Hopkins friends.
Oh yeah.
So that's funny because women's sports, they're just crushing. And the Lynx are playing Dallas. This is pre-recorded on Friday, but it's great to see the soccer team is back too. That playing Egan. It's a good time out there.
I feel like my city would only rename themselves after me for like a terrible reason.
Wow.
Like,
You could do it. You could do it. Tanner
Oh.
Barris, Minnesota.
There we go.
That's hilarious.
That would be, yeah.
It's you cross city lines and are handed just a jar of Super Booth.
Yeah. They're like, I thought this was called New York Mills. And like, no. This is Tanner Barris, Minnesota. Welcome. Do you want to dab?
TannerBarrisMinnesota.com.
Yep.
Sponsored by Puffco.
Tanner Barris is a great name for a city, and I hope one day you can do it.
Puffco sponsors the show. All right, Jordan, what's your high note for the week?
My high note is that I purchased my first bike helmet, or like just helmet in general, since probably I obliterated one snowboarding when I was like 17. And then I immediately bought a new one at the chalet to continue riding because I still had a intact skull because of my helmet.
Nice, good helmet.
But I've been using that helmet for years at this point, but it's like insulated and hot, and I'm like, I want to get out and bike more.
Mm-hmm.
Biking, especially around where I live, there's lakes and paths, and like it's designed for the runners and the cyclists, and it's very nice. And so I'm like, nothing is stopping me from going out, getting some exercise, except for my fear of just dumbass drivers and dumbass kids running out in front of me. And like, I know that myself on a bike is just going to be fine. I'm not going to take a spill, but when there's other factors at play, I'm like, okay, we got to account for that. So I got a helmet, and I'm like, I've been riding a couple times this week, and it's like, it's just fun I haven't really biked in years, and it's, I'm clearly not a runner, and it's a good way to just keep being outside. It's no mystery I love this time of year.
And this is where you're going to clip in the promo video of you like on your bike with the helmet, like the action shot.
Yep. It's going to be over stylized and very bad.
Oh, we could get a bike sponsor. That'd be fun. There's a lot of good bike shops in Minneapolis.
Hey, Northern Lights Podcast brought to you by Eric the Bike Man.
We pedal good cannabis.
Yeah, they would.
They don't sell mids there. No.
I think getting out and going through the parks and the lakes, like it reminds you it's a good use of your tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Minneapolis has a great park system. We all know that it's special here, and so good for you for getting out there.
It's just it's about setting those habits. I know that I am a creature of habit, and the hardest part is creating a structure, or like creating the habit, like doing the things to basically Pavlov my way into convincing myself that I am being rewarded.
You have to trick yourself into being healthy. Yeah.
And if I can do that by doing the small thing of buying a helmet, because that was like, it's understanding my limiting factors, but what's between me and doing the thing that probably will bring me joy. And if it's something as simple as just go to Amazon, order a nice looking helmet that fits you and is breathable. Like, and that comes back to just neurodivergency and ADHD is the like prioritization of like the things that overwhelm myself, especially are really like, if you have the executive function to like zoom out, they're really, it's just a series of pretty small menial tasks, but like that's the dysfunction of it is like I just really can't see it like that, and then it just is a tidal wave of to do or things holding you back, and then just seems unbearable and completely insurmountable. So
well, we're proud of you for protecting your noggin.
You gotta. There's some good thoughts up here every once in a while.
No, it's really good to recognize that you're being safe and you're getting over the hump by becoming more safe when you go out.
Yeah. What's the address of where we're at right now?
We are at 951 Payne Avenue.
Wow.
East side St. Paul.
And so if you write that on an envelope, put a little stamp on it, and put a sticker inside of that envelope, you can send it here addressed to Jordan. He'll slap it right on that bike helmet. Wow.
Yep. I will. You know what? I will.
There we go. If you want to sponsor Jordan's bike helmet, reach out. We're always looking for people to partner with. He drives all around the cities, and he doesn't even cut people off. So you could get on Jordan's bike helmet.
Like with a sticker, not like don't sit on my helmet.
Yeah, that wouldn't work as well. But
sometimes Gwen sits on my bike helmet. She's just right there, just hanging out.
We'll go. Just flailing around.
Like the Earl Giles guy.
Yeah. Today's episode of Northern Lights brought to you by Gwen.
Goo goo gaga.
Wow. Well, another good episode, guys. That was a good one. It's yet another episode of us talking about a lot of news that by the time you hear this, it might be all different. But we appreciate you listening in, and hopefully that bill makes its way across the finish line. I don't know. I don't really know. A lot of good things in it. A lot of other things in it. Right on your thoughts.
At least they gave us something to talk to, or at least they gave us something to talk about on Friday, rather than just being like, "Yep, up for something on Monday," and we just are like.
Absolutely, yeah. We were gonna rank candy and like do all this, but we got to skip that. So
coming next week.
see you there.
But no, because we'll be off next week. Just another reminder, next week is Memorial Day. Happy holidays for those who celebrate. But we will be out. So
And May 30th, we'll be back with our season finale.
Wow. Indeed. All right, y'all. Well, in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all the other social medias. Make sure to take Northern Lights and share it with a friend, both the cannabis and the podcast. Tell them a little bit more about us. Show them the fun clips that we post on YouTube. It's really some good stuff.
It's a big help too. It's a massive help. If you want to keep seeing content like that, it's a massive help.
I literally have a specific quote here where I'm supposed to say, if you're a fan of the show, leave us a rating or review in the Apple Podcast, Spotify, or just tell someone about us. Because, it's really helpful.
Nailed it.
Thanks. Thank you to the Dabbler Depot for hosting us. That's another good one to read. So,
that's where we are.
Yeah, that's what you should write on the top of the 951 Payne Avenue envelope so it gets to the right place. But thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Thank you all for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan Witt. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan Witt. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.